Good evening. This is Hannah Klein. Welcome to my podcast, Hannah Klein's Time. So before I start my podcast, please download my podcast and introduce my podcast to your friends. And also, if you could make generous donations, that would be very, very appreciated for to run this podcast. And also, ultimately, to run my website. Anyway, so today, I invited Reserve Army Colonel of the IDF, Colonel Zamir. If you would like to know about him, you could go back to the first time when I introduced him to my podcast. I mean, when I introduced him to my podcast. And he has very interesting views, and also his extensive analysis is very interesting. And also, I'm not seeking political analysis here. And please do not just take too subjectively about what we think or what kind of conversation we have. And we are not attacking the Japanese audience, or we're not trying to humiliate anyone. Just have extensive discussions and without barriers of like bias, for example, or misunderstandings. I hope that people have more understandings about who Israeli people are. I mean, it's very important to understand people through listening to others' views, really. And I hope that, people find time that way. Anyway, we discussed the history of judicial reform. Well, he has mentioned something very interesting when we had first time conversation. But I have wanted to discuss this on my podcast for many reasons. I mean, number one, he's an Israeli. I mean, I'm not talking to a Japanese researcher here. And anyway, he has his own view, what his democracy should be. I mean, it's very important for people in any country to believe in democracy, in my opinion, in any form. And it has to be practiced in the manner that is in the best way it can be. But anyways, I also discussed Prime Minister Netanyahu with him. My view, I will explain later. But anyway, and lastly, I discussed Gaza with him, and he explained using a map that I sent him, and I'm going to attach the map so that you can take a look at what map we're talking about. It's in Hebrew, unfortunately, but it's not so difficult to understand if you trace where he is talking about. Anyway, please welcome Colonel Zamir. So good afternoon. I guess it's like 3 in Israel. So how are you?
And good night in your side of the ocean, Yoko.
Yes.
And it's a pleasure and an honor to be on your podcast.
It's always again. My pleasure and honor to have you. It's
Thank you.
Honestly, really. And I'm really impressed with your knowledge. So just so ignorant.
Thank you.
But anyways, I think that this is a kind of like facts and history, connected together, and also people misunderstand. and also the protesters are totally just out of ignorance or something. And then, yeah, like maybe if you could explain the history and tradition and, today's judicial issues, in Israel, that would be, great.
Yeah, I'll do my best. I mean, I have nothing against the Japanese listener for
Oh,
not
it's fine.
understanding the judicial
Yeah.
system in Israel,
Mm-hmm.
because most of the people in Israel, including those that are on demonstrations,
Mm-hmm.
do not understand the judicial system in Israel.
Yeah,
But
that's pretty
let's start at the
interesting. Yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah. Most of
mm,
the people don't understand it. They don't have the will,
mm,
the capacity, whatever, to get into the details and understand them and all that. But I'll try to give both the history, the
mhm.
principles in matter of democracy as it should be stated when you learn, I don't know, state
Yeah,
science.
yes,
Okay,
it's very
that's the
interesting.
important
Yeah.
thing. And
Yes.
how does that relate to
Hmm.
the current situation that we have a crisis over firing the head of the Shin Bet, Ronen Bar?
Oh, yes,
So we'll
yes,
go from the beginning and get to today.
yes.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
in order to make it interesting for the listener of this podcast,
Yeah, thank you
so
so
we
much.
start by the fact that the British had a mandate in Israel
Yes.
for almost a little bit of over 30 years,
Hmm.
and during that time, they, like they did in any other place in the world, they
Hmm.
formulated a judicial system.
Hmm.
They appointed judges
Hmm.
amongst the natives,
Hmm.
so-called, which were the people that lived in Israel.
Hmm.
But the British are British, and therefore they did not give us two things that exists in Britain but do not exist in Israel. One, we do not have a jury system. We have professional judges
Hmm.
because the British were unwilling to give the natives that power of being juries
Hmm.
in courts. The second thing,
Oh, okay.
they made they made because in the UK you have juries.
Yeah.
It's a slightly more complicated system.
Mm.
The other thing is that they gave us what we call the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court in Israel has two roles. On one hand is the Supreme Court of Appeals,
Hmm.
in which is the final and highest hierarchy level in the judicial system to
Hmm.
appeal on any verdict that you got.
Hmm.
On the other hand, he has a function of the High Court of Justice.
Hmm.
Now, justice by itself, philosophically, is a problematic concept. Okay, it's
Hmm.
not easy to define, it's not easy to handle, and all that.
Hmm.
And as such, it takes to itself a lot of powers that he doesn't have.
Hmm.
And I believe that, like any other country except India, we should have dismissed that thing. It was made by the British so that the British can bring judges from the UK to
Wow.
rule in Israel if
Yeah.
something doesn't work well.
Hmm.
We don't need that anymore.
Hmm.
But the Supreme Court was okay and was humble for almost 40 years or so,
Hmm.
until somewhere in the 80s. And then when Aaron Barak, who was the former Attorney General in Israel, a function that we will discuss as well because it has to do with that,
Hmm.
and the Supreme Court in Israel has had a lot of power
Hmm.
in that capacity of being the Supreme Court of Justice.
Hmm.
People could appeal if
Hmm.
the government or the authorities
Hmm.
did something wrong. They would go to that court and
Hmm.
appeal against the state.
Hmm.
This is very interesting because if you think about it,
Hmm.
you have an hierarchy in the judicial system
Hmm.
that is first and last.
Hmm.
You cannot appeal
Hmm.
on a verdict that the Supreme Court of Justice has given.
Hmm.
He is the highest level.
Hmm.
Whom will you appeal to?
Hmm.
So there is only one chance.
Hmm.
It does not hear witnesses.
Hmm.
It is not obliged by the laws of evidence,
Hmm.
and it can rule according to the justice as it's viewed by its judges.
Oh.
This is a lot of power,
Mm.
and it does not exist in any other places in the democratic world because it's anti-democratic to have something that you cannot appeal on its decision.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yep.
Okay, that's wrong, and it doesn't hear witnesses. He only looks at papers, and he doesn't have to obey the law. That's what they are saying even now. So Aaron Barak has changed and made two very interesting changes that changed the entire system totally. One, he said, look, every human action is judgeable by a court of law, not judgeable by you and me that we have judgment on things, but it is judgeable by a criminal court of law. Any human action, period. So that's one thing. The other thing, there used to be the right of standing. You have a problem, somebody took a part of your garden to build the road, and you don't like it. You go to that court. I cannot go instead of you because the wrong thing was done to you and you have the interest in it, and therefore you are the one that has to do that. Aaron Barak said no. In matters of government, there can be what we call a public appealer, a public entity, may it be a company, a society, an individual that comes and said, look, what the government did doesn't look right to me, I don't like it, and therefore you have to change it. What interest of yours has been damaged or has been violated because of that action? He doesn't have to discuss that. Okay? Because he's a public appealer. That gave him a lot of power to discuss almost any action that the government did, because as you know, governments are doing things that some of the population don't like. And that part of the population will appeal, and that will be give him the right to say, I like it or I don't like it.
Yeah.
Now, basically, he should have looked at any action and say, is this a lawful action? Was it made by the authorized entity? Was it done with permission? Was it done in proper procedure? If these are not existing, each one of them or all of them together, then he could have said, okay, this action is violating the law and therefore should not be held as a legal action. But he added some other things to that. He added, for example, the reasonableness. Whether it's reasonable or not, reasonable in the eyes of whom? In the eyes of Aaron Barak and his fellow judges. So 100 members of the parliament out of 120 might think that it's reasonable, but 3 judges would decide that it's not reasonable. Okay? So they got a lot of power in doing so. In 1992 or 1995, the parliament has formulated one of the laws. You have to remember, Israel does not have a constitution. We should have had one. The parliament, the Knesset, said that it will build one, and it was never built. But Aaron Barak, in 1995, 3 or 4 days after Yitzhak Rabin was murdered, came out with a verdict as a Supreme Court judge, telling the Israeli people that we now have a constitution that he created. First time in the history of nations that a nation has gotten a constitution by a Supreme Court judge, not by the people, neither by anybody else. He said, because you have formulated, you, the parliament, have formulated the law that discusses the rights of honor and humanity for all men in Israel. Therefore, I from that can infer in a very devious way, he took clause number 8 in that particular law and said, okay, that allows me to dismiss or to strike down laws that the Knesset is making that I think are in violation of this law. Nobody gave him that right. The Knesset did not give him that right. To the contrary, even in the discussions, it said that he would not have that, but he took it. Now, jumping to today's time, the Supreme Court has gone bigger, more powerful and more powerful because it took more and more powers to do a lot of things. Now it can also, according to the verdict that was given in January 2024, just after the war started, by Esther Chayut, who left the Supreme Court and gave a verdict that says that even a fundamental, a basic law in Israel can be struck down by the Supreme Court. So basically, we have a court that usually a court is limited either by a constitution and must obey the law. In Israel, no. In Israel, the Supreme Court is above the law, and any court that is above the law, no law can limit him because he is above the law. Now, in order to make sure that he won't have to rule on everything, because that would give a lot of criticism on what he's doing, he has done two things. One, he went to the Attorney General. In Israel, the Attorney General and the legal advisor of the government is the same entity. We should have separated it, we did not. And said that whatever the Attorney General is saying to the government is the obeying and the obliged representation of the law, and the government must obey. So the government must obey the advice of the legal advisor of to the government. So now he has a front post in front of the government that can do anything they want. The second thing that they did in order to allow that, the Attorney General, who has no law in the Knesset that, formulate the capacity, the framework of the job and everything, has started taking a lot of things to himself. For example, the Attorney General would say to the Prime Minister, you cannot do this or that because I think you cannot do it. Not because the law said so, because I think there is what they call legal prevention. What does legal prevention mean? Where did you came up with that? No, legal prevention, you can't do that, period. And then they did another thing. They have what they called pre-Supreme Court of Justice. If I want to make an appeal and I want to have it good chances to win, I would go to the Attorney General and tell him what I'm going to appeal to the Supreme Court about. We will discuss. Maybe we will resolve it without that. He will instruct the government because he has the power to do so, and that will be the end of it. And it doesn't have to come to the Supreme Court. So when you try to learn and understand how much does the Supreme Court intervene in any matter, we'll take in a moment Gaza, and I'll explain what happened there. You will not find a lot of verdicts that says that he changed anything. But he had, first of all, this pre-ruling. Then within the discussion, he is saying, okay, what do you, the representative of the government, are saying? Because I think it's not good. And they would say, okay, we will change it. Okay? And they change. And they come to the Supreme Court and said, I changed it. And say, okay, if you change it, then it's okay. Then I don't need to rule. Then I'm saying that the appeal is rejected. So it's rejected. But in reality, what the appealers asked for has already happened. And that's the most important thing. And this is how they run the country for the past at least 30 years, since 1995. And they are running the country this way. And the government may say whatever it wants, the government may talk whatever it wants, but eventually they decide. You have to understand, a democracy functions in a way that you ask yourself, who is the sovereign? How do you identify the sovereign? The sovereign is the one that has the final word on everything.
Yeah, that's true.
In a democratic country, the sovereign is the people.
Yeah.
Has to be.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not a democracy. If the people do not do that themselves, then they have a representative to do that. The parliament is the representative of the people to do the will of the people, okay? And therefore, he is the one that the sovereign gave sovereignty to do things. Judges are not elected, they are appointed. By the way, in Israel, another issue, they are appointed by themselves.
By themselves?
Okay?
Like, is it by election?
Yeah, we have, no. We have a committee of 9 people. 3 of them are presiding Supreme Court judges. 2 of them are members of the parliament.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
2 of them are members of the government,
Mm-hmm.
and 2 of them are members of the bar of
Association.
attorneys.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
association. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the committee.
Mm-hmm.
In order to have someone to the Supreme Court,
Mm.
you need at least 7 out of these.
Okay.
Okay? So they have a ruling or a veto on whoever goes into the Supreme Court. In any other democratic country, check me and you'll see the judges are not part of the electing body.
Yeah,
It is
exactly.
always
Yes.
politicians.
Yeah.
It is always politicians. In Israel, they've been able to convict part of the public that if the politician, God forbids, will decide who the judges are, then we lost the democracy and it's a dictatorship, which means the United States, Germany, France, Japan, Italy, Spain, Norway, Holland, Canada, Australia, all of them are dictatorships. Because in all of them, politicians decide who the judges will be.
Yeah.
In Israel, no, it's not good. And therefore, they want the entire power to do anything they want. And when you have a lot of power, it corrupts. When you have total power, it corrupts you completely. And this is part of the problem that we are having now. If we want to be a democracy, and that is what we tried to do in February 2023, to come and say, okay, the committee that elects the judges should have politicians from the coalition, from the opposition, but politicians and others, not judges. And we want to make a change. They went ballistics on that, and the public went after them. Okay? At least part of it. And this is what brought people to the streets.
Is that
Okay?
like judicial?
Because
those people who protest, right? The changes.
yeah, those that came and protested said, if you do that, we will disobey, we will not go to the army, we will do that, we will do that, we will refuse fighting, we will refuse all kinds of things. And that gave the Hamas and others the idea that we might be defenseless, and this is a good time to do what they needed to do because of other reasons that they needed.
Yeah.
So this is something that we are having. The thing is that until now, it was done in the dark. Now it is no longer done in the dark. Now it is done out in the open. Everybody can see that. People do not like it. Do not like it. And therefore, I believe that in due course, that will change. Now, I'll connect that to the current situation that we have with Ronen Bar. Ronen Bar is the head of the Shin Bet, and without talking about the person himself, which I don't know and have never worked with, I do know one thing. He has a major role in what happened on October 7th. He did not perform well. And by that, I'm quoting him, not me. He said, me and the Shin Bet were not good in October 7th and what led to October 7th. That's his opinion. He has written that. He has published that. So I'm quoting him.
So he
I'm
has
not giving my
obligation,
opinion.
right? Yeah. Anyways, yeah.
No. So but he's still there. And then everybody said, okay, he needs to go away. And he gave conditions to go away. Said, first, I want you, Prime Minister Netanyahu, to formulate an inquiry committee on the events of October 7th. Of a certain kind that I'm telling you what it is. Second thing, I want you to appoint one of my deputies to be my successor.
What?
To that, he has written that. What I'm saying is in documents. It's not my thinking.
Yeah, I know.
I heard the rumor, and these are facts. What I'm saying now are facts. Whenever it will be something that is an opinion, I'll state that this is an opinion. This is a fact. So Prime Minister Netanyahu went out on public and said, I lost my faith in the head of my secret police, that's the
That's
Shin
not
Bet,
wrong.
the
Yeah.
secret police.
Yeah.
I lost my so because, mind you, there were investigations opened by the secret police
Mm-hmm.
on people working in Netanyahu's office
What?
to say
Really?
that they collaborated, to say that they collaborated with Qatar for money, and therefore,
Oh.
because of that, the prime minister cannot fire the head of the Shin Bet because he's now investigating people within the office of the prime minister.
Well, that
So it's
sounds
as
like
if
he
he has
cannot
some.
negotiate, right?
That sounds like the NKVD in the Soviet Union, in
Oh.
which the the head of the secret police gives the prime minister conditions on what he will do or not. If you want to take it to something less severe than the NKVD, go to the days of the famous FBI head Edgar J. Hoover, and the files and dossiers that he had on all American
Yeah.
politicians and whatever.
Yeah.
So this is the situation that we are in.
Uh-huh.
Therefore, the law, the secret police law says that the minister responsible for this secret service is the prime minister. That's his duty. And that the government can dismiss the head of the secret police at any time that it wishes to. So the government exercised its right and dismissed him, fired him. And immediately, some public appealers went to the Supreme Court to appeal and say, no, by the way, public appealers, not Ronen Bar. Ronen Bar himself did not appeal to the Supreme Court. If this was so bad, why didn't he go to the Supreme Court? Because, first of all, he had to go. And I would expect the Supreme Court to say, if he is not here to say Netanyahu should have not fired me, then who are you, all of you guys? All of you have no meaning without him. So I'm therefore not giving you anything. I'm throwing you away immediately and giving you a lot of money to pay as expenses. To the contrary, the judge presiding there, Knafi Steinitz, has made the stupidest thing that she can, said, okay, the government should come and explain to us why are they firing Ronen Bar, and until then, he stays in office. You cannot fire him. And we will have three judges to discuss that on April 8th, because the government decided that Ronen Bar would go on April 10th, or once they have a new one, the sooner of the two. So now there is going to be a discussion on the 8th. I'm connecting what I've said about the judicial system in short to Ronen Bar. Okay.
Yeah.
So now we will have a discussion on the 8th. Netanyahu could have done a few things. One thing he could have done is to say, I do not obey to the Supreme Court, and I will not, and and Ronen Bar will not stay. And I will not work with him because I need trust, and we don't have trust. And when a clerk doesn't have the trust of the politician, the clerk goes, because the politician is an elected entity and the public elected him for office. He did not elect Ronen Bar. So go. The other thing, he could have brought in a new one immediately. Immediately.
Okay.
He did not do either. He gave an answer to the Supreme Court saying, this is not within your jurisdiction. You don't have the jurisdiction to preside over this case, and therefore this has to stand and you don't need to interfere. They will interfere on the 8th, and they have a few options. One, to say, we do not allow this thing. We do not allow you to fire Ronen Bar, and he stays. That will cause a crisis because Netanyahu will have to take an action.
Yeah.
An action. And that action should be saying to the Supreme Court, I've heard you, and I have no intention of obeying.
Yeah, it's
a
scary.
crisis.
Yeah.
That that is a problem. It's not
Yeah.
a good thing. Usually, everyone has to obey the court. However, I'll give you two or three examples later on from the United States and France in which presidents did not do that
Okay.
and won. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, first, this is one option. The second option, the Supreme Court would come and say, this is indeed within our jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, because Ronen Bar is so bad in his performance,
Mm-hmm.
we think that the dismissal, the firing of Ronen Bar is justified, and therefore he is fired. By that, they will avoid a crisis
Mm.
and will establish their power. Okay?
Yeah.
And then nobody will do anything about that, but the Supreme Court will stay with the power, which is bad. This
Yeah.
is a system that they are, yeah. But this is the situation right now, and this is where we are heading. And
Mm.
what will happen is something that I don't know. I have discussions with my friend.
Mm.
Question is, what will prevail in the Supreme Court? The
Yeah.
hubris or the logic?
Mm-hmm.
If it's the hubris, they will say Ronen Bar stays. If it's the logic, they will say Ronen Bar is fired, the government was right, and that's it, and they will establish power without using it now. They will keep it for later. That's the situation as it stands right now with Ronen Bar and everything. Now, the judicial system in Israel is extremely sick. You look at Netanyahu's trial,
Mm-hmm.
it is a horrible issue. Nobody made a serious investigation. A lot of unlawful things have been committed against many people, including Netanyahu and his family, including witnesses, including government officials, including everybody. I mean, real criminal actions that have no right, and they are now blocking all the ways to investigate
Yeah.
because those that have to order the investigations are those that have to be investigated.
Yes.
Okay. For example, take the issue of the perimeter around Gaza. We used to have a perimeter around Gaza
Mm-hmm.
that anyone who enters that, we shoot and kill.
Mm-hmm.
The Supreme Court, in a series of discussions, not decisions, mind you, discussions,
Mm-hmm.
has led the army to change
Mm-hmm.
the rules of engagements,
Yeah.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
to be such
Mm-hmm.
that people can enter the perimeter. And even on October 7th,
Mm-hmm.
an officer
Mm-hmm.
is on board the tank
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't fire at the Nukhba trucks coming into Israel because he doesn't see weapons. He says, I don't see weapons. I don't know whether they are innocent or not. Because we have educated ourselves in the legal system to
Yeah.
think that we have to be better than anyone else and that the rules of engagement must tell us first to take care and make sure that we do not do anything bad to any of the
Oh, it's
Palestinians
like,
and so on and
like
so forth.
do not do like commit crimes against humanity or something, right? I guess. I don't know what it
Yeah, but I don't think that these are crimes against humanity. It's a different issue, but
is.
these
Yeah.
are total nonsense that came because what is the fundamental problem? Look,
Yeah.
these people are not bad people and are not stupid people, the Supreme Court judges.
Mm.
They are not anti-Zionists, they are not bad, they are
Mm.
not all of them.
Mm.
Every one of us,
Mm-hmm.
including you, including me,
Yeah.
has a group that he associates himself with and looks at his position relevant to that group.
Mm.
That's the reference group, we call it. Okay? You have a reference group, I have a reference group, they are
Mm.
different. The reference group of the Supreme Court judges in Israel
Mm-hmm.
is the progressive left in the United States and Europe, not the citizens of Israel. And this twists all their thought and all their views totally because they want to appear good and right and all that
Yeah.
in the eyes of these progressive leftists in the United States
Uh-huh.
Academy and in the European Academy and courts, not in the eyes of citizens of Israel like me, okay, that is not what they want. And therefore they
Does
have a
it mean that,
twisted.
yeah, does it mean that like outsiders twist opinions? Like, I mean,
Look,
lawmakers?
outside,
Yeah.
most of the people think that there should have been a reform. There was a minority, but
Mm-hmm.
it was loud, it was organized, it
Mm-hmm.
had a lot of money from the US, from European countries, from a lot of rich people around the world, like George Soros, from all
Oh,
kind of people
okay.
like that. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people gave money in order for these protesters to protest and for these protesters to do what they did. That was the issue. And this is the important thing that we need to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the population of Israel wants a reform in the judicial system and wants the power to be given back to the citizens, because otherwise I go to vote and I vote to the parliament. But what does it mean that I vote to the parliament? If eventually not the parliament member makes a decision, let's take the immigration laws in Israel. The
Mm-hmm.
immigration law in Israel was challenged by the Supreme Court, I think, maybe 5 times.
Okay.
The Knesset came with a law. The Supreme Court said, no, it's not good. They
Mm-hmm.
changed it, said, no, it's not good. Changed it again. No, it's not good.
Mm-hmm.
At a certain point, I think there were about 96 parliament members. All the Jewish parliament members, maybe except the Arabs, voted for that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Meretz, and 3 judges
Oh.
dismissed it, said no, we don't accept that. On what grounds? On what basic law? On what authority? Based on what law? Based on what authority? Who gave you? Nothing. We don't like it, and therefore it will not stand, period. The citizens of Israel don't want it. They want that the ones that have the responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
okay, will have the authority. You cannot separate the authority from the responsibility. We have made something that is unique in all people around the globe. The authority is given to the Supreme Court and the responsibility to the politicians. Well, I must admit, it worked well for both sides. It worked well also for the politician. They could always claim we are not responsible. It's because of the Supreme Court.
Oh, I see.
Now the citizens of Israel are saying, no, 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 you can't play that anymore. If you have given the power, change the courts, change the judicial system. That was why the reform came about. And this is why it will have to come about. There will have to be a reform. And it will come.
Yeah.
Because it looks ridiculous right now, it's look corrupted, and it will change.
I see.
So we understood the problem of the judicial system, hopefully. We understood how it's connected to Ronen Bar. What are the outcomes that are possible within that thing to happen? Okay?
Yeah.
And let's see how that will play out. I believe that eventually, and eventually might take years, might not be tomorrow morning. It might take years before we get the right thing to do and reform the judicial system. But because it's now out in the open, I'm quite sure that it will happen.
Oh, so it's a good thing. Then
Yeah, I think
also,
it's a good thing.
also, I think Prime Minister made like a speech in front of Knesset, right? I guess just
Yeah,
yesterday.
of course. Yeah, he gave a speech. He gave interviews and everything. But these are mostly things that he discussed the deep state. The deep state in Israel has a lot of power, both in the Ministry of Treasury, in the Ministry of Defense, and in other places. And we will have to fight that as well. We will
No.
have to fight that as
So
well.
basically, what
It's
he's saying is not extreme. So
no. Look, Netanyahu is not an extremist.
yeah, that's what I think too.
He has been
Yeah.
no. He's not an extremist. He's very cautious in
Yes.
what he's saying, in what
Yes.
he's doing.
Yes. All
Look,
the time.
everybody is saying, he gave the Hamas money and
Yeah.
all that, the Qatar money. And
Uh-huh.
so, first of all, the Qatar money was 4% of the money that Qatar got. So it's nothing. The second thing, imagine
Yeah.
what would have happened in Israel
Mm-hmm.
if, let's say, October 1st,
Mm-hmm.
Netanyahu wakes up in the morning, he
Mm-hmm.
says, look, I'm looking at Hamas.
Mm-hmm.
I see Hamas, what they are doing. I understand what they are planning. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to launch a preemptive strike
Mm-hmm.
on Hamas.
Mm-hmm.
What would have happened to Netanyahu in Israel?
So
They
like,
would have blamed him. You are doing that. You are reckless. You are doing that because of your trial. You want to save yourself from the trial.
yeah.
You are not responsible. You are that. Uh,
Yeah.
these are nonsense. The guy is, first of all,
Mm-hmm.
extremely conservative and
Yes.
responsible.
Yes.
He
Yes.
has given the courts a lot
Mm-hmm.
of backing
Mm-hmm.
throughout the years.
Mm-hmm.
Even now, he does not attack the Supreme Court.
Oh, okay.
He has, yeah, he has said we have a problem
Mm-hmm.
that is with, and that's, I'm quoting him, with very few high officials,
Mm-hmm.
where most of the civil workers are good and honest and doing their work properly and diligently and everything.
Mm-hmm.
There is a small group, which includes, by the way, Ronen Bar, which includes,
Yeah.
why that, look, there is another solution for the Ronen Bar problem, and that is that Ronen Bar will resign.
Yeah.
Why
What
doesn't
does
Ronen
he?
Bar resign?
Yeah.
Why doesn't he resign?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to understand that we are talking about what we call a soft coup. This is a soft coup.
Oh, okay.
Eventually,
Mm-hmm.
let's assume that the Attorney General,
Mm-hmm.
who has taken upon itself, with the permission of the Supreme Court,
Mm-hmm.
without it being mentioned in the law whatsoever,
Mm-hmm.
the possibility
Mm-hmm.
of declaring Netanyahu unfit. She can come tomorrow and say, I declare Netanyahu unfit to be the prime minister, and he has to leave now.
Oh,
Okay. The Supreme Court will say she's right and she has the authority to do that. Although I'm telling you, there is no such authority in the law. To the contrary, the law expresses exactly on what grounds the government can say that, but
oh,
not the Attorney General. Anyway, let's assume she will do that. And let's assume the Supreme Court decides, okay, we'll do that. We come to a very interesting merit, stone merit,
mm-hmm.
merit, okay,
Mm-hmm.
to see what can happen. Netanyahu comes in the morning to the office.
Mm-hmm.
At the entrance to the office, there is a guy standing and guarding everything, right?
Yeah.
He's guarding.
Mm-hmm.
Netanyahu comes and wants to get in.
Mm-hmm.
He says, no, I don't know whether I should let you in as prime minister or I
Mm-hmm.
should not let you in because you are Benjamin Netanyahu, the citizen. So what does he do? He calls his superior
Mm-hmm.
and explain him with the problem. His superior calls his superior. His superior calls. Eventually, it goes to the head of the Shin Bet, to Ronen Bar. And Ronen Bar needs to decide to allow him to get in or not. If he says
Wow.
no, it goes all the way down and they will not let him come. So it's a soft coup. He's there to guard that such a coup can be implemented and that they can really threaten Netanyahu. The former head of the Shin Bet, Nadav Argaman,
Mm-hmm.
actually said that. He came on television and said, if Netanyahu will act in a way that, to my opinion, is contradictory to the law,
Mm-hmm.
I will tell the public what I know about Netanyahu and his family. Because the Shin Bet are the ones that are safeguarding Netanyahu. So
Mm-hmm.
they know a lot of things about Netanyahu and his family.
Mm-hmm.
So you see that the breach of trust is enormous, and Netanyahu will have to take action. And this is a soft coup that we are going through right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that it will change.
Wow. But it's kind of scary because, like, what I hear is completely
Indeed.
different. And also, at the same time, the reason why I expected you to explain this is that, I get so many strange messages on social media, on
Yeah,
like X, for
yeah,
example. Twitter, former Twitter,
Mhm.
saying like
Mhm.
pro-Israel, like you're killing people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I only talk to
Well,
I used to talk with like conservative people usually, in the United States. I did not know about all these, protesters protesting against Israel first. But I
no,
was,
you have to understand.
mm,
Israel is killing a lot of people in
mhm,
Gaza
mhm.
because there is a war in Gaza.
Yeah.
Israel has done tremendous things
Hmm.
against uh, uh, to try and avoid
Hmm.
any civilian killings in a way that nobody in the world actually realized that is possible. Before we went to Rafah, the Americans came and said, look, there is going to be a bloodbath of civilians if you go there, and therefore
Hmm.
we do not allow that because tens of
Yeah.
thousands of civilians will be killed.
Hmm.
And once we got into Rafah
Hmm.
and we did that,
Oh yeah.
Prime Minister Netanyahu came to the division commander that commanded the operation
Hmm.
and said, okay, how many people have been killed? And how many of them are civilians? And how many of them are terrorists?
Yeah, it
And he
sounds
said,
like he
look,
cares
Prime
about it.
Minister,
Yeah. Hmm.
we
I
no,
mean,
on that operation in Rafah of
yeah.
Division
Yeah, yeah.
162, that was said, we killed 1,203 Hamas members.
Mm.
Prime Minister Netanyahu, how do you know? Said,
Hmm.
I'll show you. How do we count them?
Hmm.
In each and every place, we count to the person. And yes, we had a place in which bombing has
Hmm.
initiated Hamas weaponry assemble,
Hmm.
and because that weaponry has been blown,
Hmm.
20 Hamas members have been killed and 20 civilians. So
Oh.
yes, we have 20 civilian casualties
Hmm.
that stayed there against our orders to go away,
Hmm.
and they were killed. But apart from that, we only killed terrorists because all the civilians have been evacuated before. So
Oh.
Israel is trying to prevent that in every possible way: leaflets, telephones, television, uh,
Hmm.
uh, um, you know, calling,
Hmm.
anything, in order to make them go away and
Hmm.
leave it. Why? Because it makes our life much more easy.
Hmm.
Look, I have two sons fighting in Gaza.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I don't want them to become murderers of women and children.
Hmm.
God forbids. That would hunt them to the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
This is not something to be light on.
Hmm.
Let's kill all the Arabs or whatever nonsense people are saying. No, I don't want to make my sons into murderers.
Yeah, that's.
They have to be warriors. They have to be fighters. They have to be good at that if they want to survive.
Mhm.
But no, they do not need to kill women, children, and innocent people.
Yeah.
That will hunt them completely. So
Mm.
we are doing everything, not just because of the Arabs, also because of ourselves.
Hmm. Yeah.
But yes, it's a war, it's an urban war, and that urban war has a lot of things. The other thing you have to understand,
Hmm.
basically,
Hmm.
in my view,
Hmm.
it is not that there are the innocent Gazians and Hamas.
Mm.
Hamas is not something external that has been brought to Gaza. Gaza is Hamas and Hamas is Gaza.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I
They
really.
are not two different entities.
Yeah.
It's one entity.
Mm.
Hamas won the election. Hamas is now having a lot of support among the civilians. Although what they did, there hasn't been a single civilian in Gaza who
Mhm.
came and said, personally, I'm sorry for what happened on October 7th. Not a single one.
Yeah, that's important part, to feel, I have to say guilt, right? I mean,
They
for
don't.
doing it.
They don't.
Yeah, that's
They
what,
don't.
that's the part I don't see. And I'm just appalled. Look at look, the world that Israel is doing it. They say it. And it's like, it's
Yeah.
very strange. and I'm sorry to reflect this, but October 7th, look what they did. I mean,
Yeah, it's a problem, and
yeah,
I don't know how to solve it, but it
yeah,
shows to me that they are not willing to live in peace with us. And when
mm,
they are talking about peace, it means that they want some time to rest until the next time that they will fight with
yeah,
us.
that's really
And when we are saying peace,
yeah.
we talk about something else. But I believe that
Mm,
Trump's idea is
hmm
the only one that can actually solve the problem,
mm.
because if you allow the Gazans who wants to go out of Gaza to go, I believe that most of the population will
And
leave,
we'll go,
and
yeah.
therefore there will be no terrorist infrastructure left, because there
Mm,
will be no civilian population to support it,
mm,
and therefore it will end. So
hmm
I think that what Trump is offering is good. I hope that the Israeli government will
yeah,
explore that opportunity
yeah.
in the right way,
Mm,
will allow them to live, will pay for that,
mm,
will do it in a diligent and honorable way, and
mm.
allow them to go and be refugees and save their families and their lives elsewhere in the world.
Yeah. Well, uh, I would like to ask you, like, maybe based on your experience, that, what is the nature of Hamas? Like, it's probably
Well,
it's
look,
Gaza, but
Hamas is a religious
mhm.
thing. You can read about it, how it was formed. It was
Yeah, I
formed as
mean,
a
it has a
religious
charter, right?
entity.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, the charter comes later, but at the
later,
beginning, it's a religious Sunni movement that
yeah,
says that people have to go back to believing in Allah and Muhammad and be
yeah,
obedient, and then on top, and then do a lot of good things amongst Muslims, help those that are poor, help those that are incapable, and so on and so forth. And then
mm,
on the other hand, free the land of Palestine for themselves and so on, kill all the Jews because that's what the Quran says, and this is what they need to do. And
yeah. That's
therefore,
right. Yeah,
this is a very deadly movement that doesn't want us to exist. So the conflict is a conflict that they don't want us to exist.
mm,
We, on the other hand, would say, okay, if Hamas is willing to live in peace with us, we don't have a problem with Hamas. Hamas says no. Even if Israel is not in Gaza, as we withdrew in 2005, we
yeah.
still want to kill the Israelis, and we will come to them outside of Gaza to kill
Mm.
them like we did on October 7th. That's the whole
But
thing
mm,
that you have, and this is not going to change.
but it sound, when I saw October 7th, it sounded like maybe it might happen again, you know, like in the future if this doesn't
It will.
result.
It will.
I mean, it's
No,
scary.
look. If not from Gaza, it will
Mhm.
happen from somewhere else. It happened to us in 1973 that did not believe everything that we saw and understood and heard and everything,
In
and it's now coming to us
1973.
again. Yeah, in the Yom Kippur War. In the Yom
Oh,
Kippur
okay,
War,
okay,
we
okay.
were we were
Yeah.
we were we were caught by surprise because
Mhm.
we did not believe the intelligence. We did not believe what we are seeing. We
Mhm.
thought that we know better than others what the meanings of the enemy are, and we did not. Same thing happened now. 50 years, exactly 50 years later.
Oh,
Exactly. From October 73 to October 2023, 50 years later, you get the same thing.
it's- yeah, I was, yeah, that's so, I mean, it's scary, like as a country risk, that's like,
Now, we are living in an unfriendly neighborhood, and
yeah, but
living in an unfriendly neighborhood is scary. But
mhm,
on the other hand, this is what we need to do, and we need to prevail. And you have to
mm.
remember the Arabs can lose as many times as they want. They only need to win once.
Okay.
The Israelis can win as many times as they want, but if they lose once, we will cease to exist. So we
Oh,
cannot lose even once.
I see. But it sounds like, to me for a long time, I mean, I've been
Mhm.
watching about Israel like for a long time. It sounds like it has a very high level of security. and also high level of deterrence against the enemies. It's, like to me, it's more, like, you know, like impressive to me in a sense because Japan is very defenseless compared to that.
Yeah.
It's a
No,
scary fact, but it's true. Like,
I don't think so. I think that Israel deterrence,
hmm
remember, deterrence is a psychological issue. It's in
uh,
the mind of your enemy.
hmm
It's not something tangible. You
yeah,
cannot actually measure that. This
hmm
is what goes on in the mind of your enemy. You do not need to consider that when you prepare yourself to what can happen.
hmm
You need to be prepared against his abilities, not against his meanings or his deterrence or non-deterrence or whatever.
right.
What are the capabilities? Be prepared to that. Now, Japan is in a better thing. I don't think that Japan is threatened by China now. I don't think Japan is threatened by Russia. Japan has a good treaty with the United States, who is right now the only supreme power in the world. So Japan is secure and safe. Japanese people need to look into, in my view, and last time I visited Japan was like 7 years ago in
hmm
2018. But Japan needs to look internally
hmm
into its low birth rate, into its growing economic problems, into those things.
Yeah.
That's what it needs to look into, not externally. Nobody
Yeah,
is
but
going to attack Japan,
the real
not
problem
going
is
to
that,
happen.
yeah, the real problem, right now, I don't think it's about President Trump, but it's about like the internal issue that we have, especially economically. We give
Mhm.
like, we have so much trades with tr China right now, and then like if we,
Mhm.
like China's, like enacts embargo against us, like we are like economically so defenseless. I mean, that's so
But
stupid.
China, China wants the money, and
Yeah.
China is not doing those things. The Chinese are not there to fight neither with you nor with the others. They want to make money. They want to allow themselves to do what they call the 100-year program, and it will take time. Japan needs to build an army. I would very much advise Japan to do that.
Yes.
It would
Yes.
be very
Yes.
good for
Exactly.
Japan to do
Yeah.
it. And that would also gain a lot of appreciation from the United States.
Yeah.
But I don't see Japan in any jeopardy right now.
Yeah. It's like we like, like for example, Japan. There's always like territorial invasion by, jet forces from Russia and China the whole day, like every day, constantly. The Coast Guards, like then they just invade the territory the whole time. Like
Okay.
and they create these strange artificial like things like buoys, just
Yeah.
invading the territory of
Hmm.
the southern part
Yeah.
of Japan, and then they are creating this artificial base, in
Yeah.
the middle of the South China Sea, and like it's what they're
Yeah.
doing is so weird. And then now like China, has the most like nuclear arms in the world, and it's like, what are they doing? Like
Yeah.
it's so strange, to Japanese. Japan doesn't, hold an army or military right now, officially, like legally, but it's like United States, like there was no choice but to ask, like for example, like when the there was a nuclear crisis, that we found out, we had no choice but to unofficially ask President Obama to resolve something. I mean, it's kind of like strange, that, and
Yeah.
the one,
Japan is
yeah,
dependent.
yeah. Please go ahead.
No, Japan sits under the umbrella of the United States
Yeah,
in terms
exactly.
of
Yeah, 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 yeah,
security and armed things,
yeah.
which is a good umbrella to sit under.
Yes.
But it has to develop things. It did not.
Yeah.
It did not do so, and rightly so, because it had to restore itself after the war. after World War II.
Yeah.
Now that you have restored yourself, you
Mm-hmm.
can allow yourself to build an army and
Mm.
become a part of the Western world to
Yeah,
defend
that's.
against whatever can happen. And
Mm-hmm.
Japan would be a mighty force if it
Mm-hmm.
does so, because it
Yes.
used to be a mighty
Yes,
force when
exactly.
it decided to
Mm-hmm.
be so. And therefore, I suggest that it would do so. But right now, you don't have to worry too much.
Yes,
So I
but
don't know. We have been talking for an hour now. You
okay.
want to continue that, or you want to change
Okay.
topic, or
Okay. I send you a map, and
yeah.
I if you could explain the map, maybe that would be,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Can you put the map on the screen, and then it would allow me
Okay.
to show things on the screen.
Okay. How can I do it? Is it like send you
Share screen, and
share screen?
we will see the screen.
Share screen.
Put this screen.
So just a minute. Oh, yes.
You see,
Yes, I see
so
it.
you look at that. We are
Mhm.
looking at the Gaza Strip. The blue here that
Yeah, yeah.
I'm pointing out
Mm-hmm.
is the Mediterranean Sea.
Mm-hmm.
The north here is the
Mm-hmm.
north part of Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
around it is Israel,
Mm-hmm.
up until this line that I'm showing here.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
this line is the border with
Egypt.
Egypt.
Yeah.
Egypt is this place where I'm
Mm.
showing here.
Yes,
What
yes,
you see
yes,
written here is
yes.
Egypt. So first of all, Rafah is here.
Yes, yes.
This is Rafah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Khan Yunis is here
Oh, okay. Yeah.
in
Mm-hmm.
this region. Khan Yunis here
Mm-hmm.
and Rafah, and then the city of Gaza is here.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, that's the Gaza city.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
now with the IDF
Mm-hmm.
is now in control of here. This is what
Yes.
you call Netzarim Road. The
Oh, okay, okay.
Netzarim,
Yeah, yeah.
not Netzarim, Philadelphia.
Yeah,
Philadelphia
Pacific
Road
Road,
is
yeah.
here. Philadelphia is the border between Egypt and
Mm.
Gaza.
Yeah.
You understand from that, by the way, that
Yes.
according to international law, the
Yes.
country that has a border with the fighting zone should
Mm-hmm.
have taken all the refugees into its territory, according to international law. Egypt doesn't do that for some reason.
Mm.
So Israel has now cut the north part from the
Ah.
south part by going into this place, which is the
Oh, okay.
Netzarim Road.
Mm-hmm.
It's here. This
Mm-hmm.
is Netzarim Road.
Mm-hmm.
We are controlling it from the sea all the way to Israel.
Mm-hmm.
So the north is disconnected from the south. The south is disconnected from Egypt. The borders are not exactly as the yellow thing here.
Mm-hmm.
This thing goes all the way to the sea. Here,
Mm-hmm.
in Rafah, it's much bigger and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. But this is the situation. We took the population from the northern part, which
Mm-hmm.
is Bet Hanun, Bet Lahia,
Mm-hmm.
all that is here.
Mm-hmm.
PM Shati, that's the refugee camp Shati. All these people have been driven to the south
Mm-hmm.
to a place called the Muasi,
Mm-hmm.
which is here
Mm-hmm.
on the seashore,
Mm-hmm.
and they will be here
Mm-hmm.
until we finish the fighting in here,
Mm-hmm.
and then go on into fighting here and fighting here
Mm-hmm.
until we have taken them all out. In my view, what we
Mm-hmm.
should have done, the Americans should have gone to Egypt and say,
Mm-hmm.
look, we would like this territory. Look, all this territory that you see here,
Mm-hmm.
just to give you a size, is 360 square kilometers.
Mm-hmm.
360 square kilometers.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even a medium-sized ranch in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's a very small territory.
Yeah.
Take that territory in Egypt,
Mm-hmm.
bring them all over there. The
Mm-hmm.
Americans will lease it from the Egyptians. They will lease it for, say, 10 years. They will pay the Egyptians money because the Egyptian economy is now dying. And that will allow Egypt to live. They will bring all the Palestinians from Gaza to this place. And once they've brought it here into Egypt, in here, they will stay here and they will start dispatching them to all over the world, to any country that is willing to take them.
Yeah.
And then we will finish the Hamas here, and then we will decide what to do with the Gaza Strip.
No.
Trump wants it to build some good things on it. Go
Yeah.
ahead. But he will not take it unless the Hamas is not there and unless it's vacant from all the troubles that can happen. So this is what he wants. So let's do it. And this is the right way, in my view, to do that.
So, but like it's a pretty small area, right? I mean, it's not like
Yep.
yeah, like probably what people imagine, like people who don't know about Israel imagine probably. So, I mean, what is the
No,
benefit of
it's
cutting like
small.
yeah.
It's always small
Mhm.
because you have to understand that these are small places. The entire state of Israel
Mhm.
is a small state.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's a small state.
Mhm.
If you look at it and try to compare it to Japan,
Yeah.
okay,
Okay.
Japan is what, 380,000 square kilometers?
Yeah.
Israel, including everything, Judea and Samaria, is 2,600,000.
Wow. Yeah.
It is like
Mhm.
1 to the 12th Japan.
Okay.
Out of that, the Gaza Strip, out of Israel,
Mhm.
is 1%,
Yeah.
1.5%
Yeah,
of
it's
Israel.
yeah.
And Israel is like 8% at maximum of Japan.
I have one question. I
Yeah.
don't think it's illegal, but like for example, the news media was saying, I'm not just saying, referring to the Japanese media, but like the border, between Israel and, Gaza, like, yeah, Netanyahu started to destroy the 20 kilometers of like the buildings, blah, blah, blah. Like,
Well, yeah, I mean, look,
of course they have to, right?
again, I'll share the screen again
Okay.
and show you. Look, this is Israel.
Yeah.
You see this purple line here, that's the
Yes,
border.
yes, yes.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
We do not want people to live here next to the border. And
Yes.
you do not, the distance, by the way, from here to the
Mm-hmm.
sea is less than 10 kilometers.
Yeah.
So you can't destroy 20 kilometers because there aren't any 20 kilometers. It's 10, less than 10. Like, yeah. Here, Philadelphia, here, the widest place from here to the sea is 12 kilometers.
Yeah.
This is 12 kilometers. So
Yeah.
where did Netanyahu can destroy 20? I don't know, but it
Yeah.
doesn't exist. We
Yeah.
took about a kilometer,
Yeah.
sometimes 2 kilometers,
Yeah.
to make sure that there are no buildings and nobody can come here
See?
and start shooting at us.
Yeah.
Because you see all these places in here.
Yeah.
Look, all these places here, Nahal Oz, Kfar Aza, Mefalsim,
Oh,
Kisufim,
that's the
Ein
place
HaShlosha,
where
Nir
it was
Oz.
attacked.
These are the places where everything were attacked.
Yeah.
So we don't want
Right.
that to happen.
Yeah.
Netiv HaAsara is here. Sderot is here. This
Yeah.
is Sderot, the city of Sderot. These are the places. Be'eri, Kibbutz
Yeah.
Be'eri is here.
Yeah.
We don't want people to be living
Yeah.
2 kilometers from Be'eri and shooting at Be'eri. So we made some kind of a buffer zone in here. And we will enlarge it. And eventually, what we will have to do, we will have to make sure that there are no terrorists within the entire Gaza Strip, so we can give it to the Americans.
Oh, okay.
So the yellow is where the IDF is controlling. I think it's bigger in here and bigger in here, okay,
Yeah,
in
it's
Jabalia.
Come in
And
front of the yeah.
the red is
Mhm.
what we declared as the perimeter. The
Oh,
perimeter is what is in red. In red
uh-huh.
means this is the perimeter that Israeli has declared. Anyone who enters that zone will be shot and killed.
Okay.
And that's what we have to preserve.
I mean, why are the Palestinians complaining about this? I really
The Palestinians
actually
are
don't.
complaining because they
Okay.
don't want us to control any of it. They want us out
Hmm.
of the entire state of Israel, first from Gaza, but from the entire state of Israel.
Hmm.
They don't want us in. So
Yeah.
they complain about anything. We we would
Oh,
have not
okay.
taken the parameter
There is
if
no
they
reason
haven't
for it.
started
Yeah.
October 7th.
Hmm.
We left that goddamn place on 2005. We
Yeah.
gave it all to them. So what is the problem? Why are you attacking us now? Because they want the rest of the state of Israel.
Hmm.
That's okay. We are not willing to give it to them.
Yeah.
And therefore we are fighting. And
Yeah.
that's it. It's
I
simple.
mean,
And
there's
in fighting, you have to fight.
yeah. I mean, there's nothing actually wrong at all, but I just don't understand. Maybe because of, like I was discussing with actually a lawyer from, Florida, about the protests.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah. Yeah.
those
Mhm.
now FBI has been pointing out to people and, they're saying like it's for like, censorship of freedom of speech and, all these things, but, some people are deported. Yeah, of course, I mean, they support terrorists. I mean, I just do not understand all these.
Well,
I mean, some people attended like the funeral of blah 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 and all these things, and they have been deported. But I just, I don't see any of that free speech in the first place, and I think I see why and what kind of lies they have made from what you explained. So, so far, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. Great.
I mean, they were talking about these perimeters, and they were saying, like we build like whatever, like farms, buildings, and we've been killed. I mean, I don't know what to say
No,
about this. Mhm,
actually, what happened was
mhm.
that we decided to have a parameter long time ago. Uh,
Yeah.
After 2005, we
Mhm,
said there will be a parameter.
mhm.
Anyone who gets in will be shot and killed. We
I still
discussed the
understand.
judicial
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
The judicial system
Mhm,
forced the IDF
mhm,
to treat those that entered the parameter
mhm,
as demonstrators, not as terrorists, because they were viewed as protesters. You
mhm,
should not use little means against them. You should only use unlittle means against them.
mhm,
And this is what we did. They use that in order to make sure that they can come next to the fence,
mhm,
because this line, this purple line,
mhm,
is composed of a fence,
mhm,
okay, a barrier. They
mhm,
went into there to see the fence, to understand, to launch all kind of balloons with fire devices in order to burn all the fields that you see here. All these kibbutzim were having fields here, and they burned them all
mhm.
as part of their protesting. As part of their protesting, we did not shoot them.
Oh my
So all
God.
the soldiers within years have been sort of used to the fact that the Palestinians are coming all the way up to the fence, and
Hmm.
you don't shoot them. And when then they cross the fence, nobody shot them because they are maybe demonstrators, and we shouldn't shoot them. We should just, send tear gas or whatever against them. And that was the problem. So now we have reestablished the parameter.
Hmm.
Anyone who gets in will be shot and killed.
Oh, okay.
And you see that it's narrow
Mm.
when it comes to the Egyptian border
Yeah,
because we
yeah,
don't really
yeah,
care. And it's wider when you come to
yeah.
discuss
Israel,
the
yeah,
Israeli
yeah.
border
Because
and
it's
all the settlements that are here.
mhm,
These are actually within Israel what we call Green Line. These are the borders that are not in dispute. These
Oh,
are not what other people would call occupied territories, and I would call Judea and Samaria because I believe it's my own. No, this
okay.
is the Negev. This was given to us by
Yeah.
the UN resolution back in 1947.
Hmm.
So
No, it's, I mean, it's devastating that, that happened, really.
it's life. It's
Mhm.
something that we have to live with and understand. This is part of the equation, and we need to work out with that.
Okay. But
That's
I
the whole
hope
point.
that, this war ends well, during, President Trump's
Yeah.
administration, to be honest. So,
President Trump is a great support to Israel in terms
yes,
of
yeah, he
international
has been all
support,
the time. Yeah.
in terms of thinking outside the box and bringing good ideas to
Mhm.
put on the table that can actually have the capacity of solving the problem, not just delaying the solution and delaying everything to the next round, but actually doing something good. He is giving us the ammunition and the means to do that, which
Mhm.
is very important.
Yeah.
And then he is a great supporter of the state of Israel, and we owe him a lot. And I'm very happy, and I hope that the Israeli government will be smart enough within the time that is left until the election in November 2026
Mhm.
to do the right things with President Trump so as to get the maximum out of his this administration, that
Mhm.
I don't think that we will ever see a more favorable one to our cause.
No, yeah, that's true. Yeah, but I hope that, this will bring, Israel to the safety. And also, yeah, like I really see this, it's not about these struggles, but I would rather see this like, as a crisis of the nation at some point, every time there's some kind of missile strikes, that kind of thing. But I'm really thankful. Probably like it's about time that, I have to just, probably I hope that
Yeah,
I think you
yeah,
have other
yeah.
things to do. So,
Oh,
but anyways, I really appreciate you. Yeah, for,
thank you
and
very much.
and and
You're
also this is
co-
not about, you asking you to, like just, Japanese people, getting upset at you or something, it's just an open discussion. And I also hope that, people understand really, what Israeli people
yeah.
are like, and also,
Well,
yeah, that's really my intention.
I
So,
hope I will do a good impression on the Japanese,
of
and
course you do. Yeah, of course you
I don't
do.
know. I'm I'm speaking the truth and what I know and view from firsthand, from learning the history and so on. And I thank you very much for the opportunity to address the
Oh,
audience
no, no,
in
it's my
Japan,
pleasure.
which
Yeah.
is extremely important.
Hmm.
And have a nice night over
Okay.
your side of the ocean.
Thank you.
And thank you.
And I hope you have a nice day. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Well, I hope people understand what democracy to Israeli people mean. But he does not represent all views, though, and he does mention that, of course. I asked him to speak about his own views, anyways. And um, by the way, like the protesters are creating something like 20 kilometers off the whatever, the border of Gaza is being destroyed. Like, I mean, it's unbelievable. Okay, come on, just don't lie such a thing. I mean, it's way into the ocean. There's no such thing as 20-kilometer borders. Okay, so anyway, I hope that well, I'm actually inviting a guest on. I'm on Sunday, and then I am releasing the podcast the next day because it's very late. And also, I need to ask someone to just set up. But anyway, I hope you have a good night and also good evening in Israel, I guess, and also good morning. Anyway, good night.